When you think of e-commerce today, you usually think of this brutal algorithmic race to the bottom against Amazon.
Oh, absolutely. It's exhausting.
Right. Like everybody is just trying to shave pennies off generic products, hoping they can somehow outmaneuver these massive warehouse scale logistics and, infinite free shipping.
Yeah, it really is a game of just massive scale. I mean, for most retail categories, trying to compete as an independent online store feels like, well, bringing a butter knife to a tank fight.
Which is exactly why today we're exploring this massive $300 billion anomaly that's just kind of hiding in plain sight.
It's completely wild when you look at the numbers.
It really is. It's an entirely different universe where customers actually don't care about infinite selection and where brand loyalty just completely rewrites the normal rules of the internet.
Yeah, the rules are totally different here.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We've got something custom tailored for you today. Our mission is to decode a highly specific, highly lucrative playbook dated April 27, 2026. It's titled Shopify Fabric Store, Launch a Profitable Textile Brand. We are looking at the independent online fabric niche.
Which is just a fascinating space.
It is, because in this space, customers return 3 to 4 times more often than the average direct-to-consumer shopper.
And, that retention metric alone fundamentally changes the foundation of a business.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you don't have to constantly pay to acquire the same customer over and over again, you can afford to do things that would literally bankrupt a traditional retailer.
Wow, yeah, that makes total sense. So we're going to unpack exactly how to build an online textile brand without getting crushed by big box stores.
And, of course, how to navigate the incredibly expensive inventory landmines just waiting in the supply chain.
Exactly. So whether you're like a DIY crafter sitting at a sewing machine right now, or you're just an e-commerce nerd looking for an unexploited business model, this material contains a goldmine of counterintuitive strategies.
It really does. But before we can sell a single yard of fabric, we have to understand the mind of the person buying it.
Right, because they do not shop like normal consumers at all.
Not even a little bit. The demographic data paints a very, very specific picture. We're looking at a core demographic that is 78% female.
Oh, okay.
And their peak ages are between 35 and 50. But here's the crucial part. They self-identify as intermediate or advanced sewists.
Got it. So they actually know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They aren't looking for, beginner embroidery kits. If they just want a cheap, all-in-one starter kit, they'll just drive down to Hobbycraft or Joann for that.
Right. They're not browsing the beginner aisle. They want specific fiber content, specific weights, the right drape. And their annual spend really proves it.
Oh, the spend is huge.
Yeah, the text says they spend anywhere from $300 to $1,800 annually. But the really fascinating part to me is the trigger for all that spending.
Right. It's entirely project-based.
Exactly. They aren't just impulse browsing. They might be, filling a seasonal wardrobe gap or maybe making a gift cult for a new baby.
Or they just bought a specific indie dress pattern and need the exact right material for it.
Yeah. They aren't scrolling mindlessly and just adding things to a cart for the dopamine hit.
No. Without a specific project in mind, there is basically zero impulse browsing, which dictates the absolute necessity of picking one specific fiber lane.
Okay, let's unpack this because
You have to choose a tight specialization, like modern quilting cotton or apparel knits or maybe dead stock.
right, but okay, let's unpack this. Isn't the golden rule of retail to cast the widest net possible?
Usually, yes.
Right, so restricting yourself to just one type of fabric feels totally counterintuitive. It's like opening a grocery store that only sells hot sauce. Why deliberately shrink your customer base right out of the gate?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to consider who you are actually competing against if you try to cast that wide net.
Amazon, I'm guessing?
Exactly. If you try to be the everything fabric store, your direct competitor is Amazon's infinite warehouse, and you cannot win that arms race.
Right, you'll just get crushed on price and shipping.
But in this niche, loyalty completely beats reach. You narrow your focus and bypass Amazon entirely. The playbook brings up some great case studies, actually.
Oh, like mood fabrics.
Yes, Mood built massive designer authority. And then there's Blackbird Fabrics, who uses incredibly tight curation and scarcity drops.
Right, where their audience trusts them so much that stuff just sells out in hours.
Exactly. And the macro environment really helped here, too. The 2025 collapse of Joann and Fabric.com created this massive vacuum.
So the giant mass market players stumbled, and these highly curated independent shops were just perfectly positioned to swoop in and fill the void.
Yep. But because these buyers are so exacting about their specific projects, we run into an immediate challenge.
How to sell it online.
Right. How do you convince someone to buy a highly tactile physical product through a flat glass screen?
Yeah, that merchandising strategy is so vital they can't touch it. So the structure of the product detail page, or the PDP, has to do a lot of heavy lifting. And the text says that a 15-second looped drape video of the fabric moving is the single highest converting element you can have.
It vastly outperforms those gorgeous flat lay photos. Because a static photo only tells you the color.
Right.
The video tells you the behavior. The suist is watching that loop to see, like, does this fabric pull heavily on the table? Does it hold a stiff shape?
They're basically mentally mapping that movement onto whatever dress or quilt they're planning to make.
Exactly. But the video still doesn't solve the physical touch problem. That's where the swatch program multiplier comes into play.
Right, addressing those top customer objections, like the dye lot, the drape, and the hand, which is how it actually feels.
Right. So successful shops offer these physical swatches for like $1 to $3 with free shipping.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The swatch isn't just a product sample, is it? It's basically a physical tracking cookie, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's like mailing someone a movie trailer that they can hold in their hand, setting up the blockbuster purchase later.
What's fascinating here is how this specific tactic fundamentally changes the math of the business. On paper, mailing a $2 swatch for free looks like a terrible loss leader.
Because of postage in the envelope.
Right, you're literally losing money. But the genius part is the follow-up. 7 days after that swatch ships, you trigger an automated Klaviyo email offering a $5 store credit toward the full yardage.
And the conversion rate on that is wild.
It's an astonishing 30 to 40%. It turns a $2 apparent loss into a $50 to $120 high-confidence order.
It just completely eliminates the friction of buying textiles online.
Exactly.
But then, okay, once that swatch convinces the customer and they actually go to buy the yardage, the business just runs headfirst into its biggest operational nightmare.
The decimals.
The decimals. It blew my mind. Shopify natively operates in whole integers, right?
Wow.
1 mug, 2 t-shirts. But a suist following a pattern needs like 1.5 yards or 2.75 yards.
Which means using fractional quantity apps or custom theme codes is absolutely non-negotiable from day one. You can't just force them to buy whole yards.
No, because they'd be overpaying for fabric they'll just throw away. But this decimal thing also dictates the entire physical workflow in the warehouse.
Oh, the cut-to-order rules are brutal.
Wait, if the bolt has 1.4 yards left and they order 1.5, you just toss the 1.4, or do you sell the first order at a small loss?
You never shortcut. If they order 1.5 and you only have 1.4 left on that bolt, you must cut from a brand new, fresh bolt.
And what happens to the 1.4 yards?
You discard the nub or refund them or put it in the scrap bin. Plus, the fulfillment team has to take a QC photo, a quality control photo of the cut against the reference card just to kill like 80% of color mismatch disputes.
That sounds like a massive margin leak. I mean, cutting labor, mailers, the swatches, the tech says that eats 8 to 15% of the margin before shipping even factors in. How does a business survive that kind of bleeding?
Well, they survive through a radical reframing of lifetime value, or LTV.
Okay, walk me through that.
So let's say your customer acquisition cost is $25. Factor in the labor, the swatch cost, all those discarded nubs, and that very first order might actually operate at a $4.55 loss.
Yikes.
Right. If you were selling generic phone chargers, you'd be bankrupt in a month. But because this specific buyer persona returns 4 to 8 times a year, the blended LTV clears $300 to $500.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's entirely a long game of retention.
Okay, so to secure those incredibly profitable repeat orders, you have to actually have the fabric in stock when they come back.
Which is easier said than done.
Right, because acquiring the physical bolts introduces supply chain realities that can just bankrupt a careless founder.
Let's talk about the sourcing models. First, there's the dropship trap.
Right, using AliExpress or something.
Exactly. Relying on overseas marketplaces to ship directly to your customer ruins your reputation because of color drift. It looks different than the photo, shipping takes forever. It's a nightmare.
So what's the sweet spot then?
A mix. You want 50 to 65% of your inventory to be high-margin, mill-direct, private label. And you supplement that with rotating dead stock buyouts for content freshness.
Dead stock being like the leftover designer fabric that won't be made again.
Exactly. It creates instant scarcity.
But commissioning that mill-direct fabric introduces what the text calls the October cliff rule.
Yes. Mill lead times are typically 14 to 20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Yeah. So if you want inventory for the massive November-December holiday peak, you must place your purchase order by July at the absolute latest.
That is wild. And then there's the dye lot reorder gap, right?
Yeah.
When you reorder the same fabric, it never matches exactly because the dye batch is drooped. You have to use meticulous lot number tagging.
Right.
So sourcing fabric is essentially like making vintage wine. You can't just press print and get the exact same Cabernet next year because the grapes, or in this case, the dye batches and fiber blends, have naturally drifted.
That's exactly it. And this raises an important question about how to manage cash flow and inventory with all that drift and delay.
Right.
The rule is you place your reorders at 50% sell-through, not 80%. You have to account for that 14-week lead time, otherwise you get stockouts. And stockouts kill your compounding reviews.
You literally have to buy the next batch when you still have half your inventory left.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you've navigated all that. Your exclusive, beautiful fabric has arrived. Before you ship a single yard, there are invisible legal and financial traps waiting in your warehouse.
The hidden regulatory landmines. These are terrifying if you don't know about them.
Seriously. Like the CPSIA trap. If you market fabric for children in the U.S., it instantly triggers mandatory federal lead and flammability testing.
And those lab tests cost, what, $200 to $600 per ski?
Per SKU. Every single color needs a test. And then there's cross-border logistics. The U.S. suspended its $800 de minimis exemption back in August 2025.
Right, which means every commercial parcel coming into the U.S. now owes duties.
Exactly. So the playbook says you have to use DDP, or delivered duty paid, which cuts cross-border refusal rates by 30 to 60%.
Because the customer isn't getting a surprise customs bill at the door.
Right. Oh, and sales tax quirks. States like Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and New Jersey exempt apparel fabric from sales tax under their clothing exemption rules.
And obviously, product liability insurance is absolutely mandatory.
So what does this all mean? Like, if I just write perfect for a baby blanket in my product description because it sounds cute, did I just accidentally trigger federal testing regulations and expose myself to massive liability?
Yes. Yes, you did. The moment you use those words, you're in the strict CPSIA regime.
Wow.
It's a brutal reality, but it just emphasizes how important critical thinking and precision are in your marketing.
So how do founders get around it?
There's a brilliant workaround. First, frame your marketing around adult apparel to stay outside those rules.
Okay.
And second, before commissioning your own tests, ask your mill for their existing OCOTEX or REACH test reports. Most reputable mills already have them, so you don't have to absorb the cost.
Okay, that's smart. So now the store is legally compliant, fully stocked, operationally sound. We finally arrive at the launch.
The fun part.
Right. But how do you get eyes on the store? Because the standard DTC playbook of just throwing money at Meta ads is apparently guaranteed to fail here.
Oh yeah, Meta is an interruption platform, but sewists search with active intent, which is why the marketing stack here is completely flipped.
Pinterest dominates.
Exactly. Pinterest is huge because sewists actively search for project ideas, like they'll type in DIY linen pinafore in 2 hours.
That's incredibly high shopping intent.
Yes. So Pinterest yields a CAC of just $10 to $25 and drives roughly 48% of early revenue.
Half the revenue, and then email marketing, like Klaviyo flows for restock days, drives about another 24%. So Meta is strictly for retargeting, not cold acquisition.
Right. You don't use Meta to find new people.
But the first 100 orders playbook is my favorite part. Seeding 15 to 25 microsuists with free 1-yard cuts.
It's so smart. You do this before you even turn on paid ads.
Right, because you need them to generate finished project photos. People don't buy flat fabric, they buy the idea of the garment.
Exactly. It provides the social proof. And then once you're moving into year 2 scaling, you look at wholesale, or B2B, selling to quilt shops via a platform called Fair.
Wait, Fair takes 25% on the first order from a new retailer? That sounds like robbery for a business already sweating over discarded fabric nubs and mailer costs. Why would any founder agree to that?
It sounds bad, but you have to view that 25% as a customer acquisition cost, not lost margin. It's a strategic trade-off.
Because Fair underwrites net 60 payment terms.
Exactly. And more importantly, these quilt shops buy full 10 to 15-yard bolts at once. Right. So it completely eliminates the labor cost of cut to order. No one is measuring 1.5 yards,
Wow.
and your average order value just dramatically increases.
That makes total sense. You trade a little margin for huge volume and zero cutting friction.
Exactly.
So just to wrap all this up for you listening, the absolute essentials here. You have to respect the decimals and fix your software. You need to leverage the physical swatch as your best marketing tool.
Because that test drive is everything.
Right. You need to align your marketing with project-based intent on Pinterest. And of course, never forget the 14-week lead time of the October cliff.
If you can master those operational hurdles, you get a business with incredible retention.
It's amazing. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder. We've seen that independent fabric shops win through deep curation, a strong founder voice, and these highly loyal communities.
Very loyal.
So if that's the case, what happens when these brands start using those engaged customers to crowdsource and co-fund custom mill direct fabric runs before they're even manufactured? Oh, wow. Like a Kickstarter model for fabric runs.
Exactly. Could the highly engaged customer base eventually become the design house itself? It's definitely something to think about.
It would completely change the industry.
It really would. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fabric of e-commerce.